All right, going in depth right now, UTA has adopted a 5-year service plan for Utah. What they say is the plan aims to achieve some higher ridership in the long term by aligning service with emerging travel patterns. What does that mean? Well, we're going to go in depth on this with the Director of Planning for the UTA, Laura Hansen. And Laura, first of all, just your job title makes my head spin, trying to think about how routes can work and making them efficient. So what does this 5-year service plan do for that? What direction are you moving in?
Well, I have the best job at UTA, I think, because we get to think into the future about what our services should look like. This 5-year plan, we deal with both long-range planning, so looking out 30 years into the future, as well as the short term. And this is really our shorter term plan. And essentially, it's a guide. It tells us where we think we're headed in terms of service changes over the next 5 years. We intentionally kept it quite high in elevation. So we're not sure exactly how we're going to get to all of these goals, but we know where we think we're headed. We hope that, oh, go ahead, please.
You know, I was just going to say, one of the things that always strikes me is that the Wasatch Front is kind of a combination of things. There are some really nice downtown areas, from Ogden to Provo and Salt Lake in between, but we also do have some of that sprawl that makes mass transit tough. Big houses on big plots in neighborhoods that are spread out. Is that changing, or how can you plan for that to make buses get where you need to go faster?
Sure, that's a great question. We talk a lot at UTA about designing our services for ridership, maximizing the number of people who have access to transit, or the number of places, and that's a more coverage-based scenario. And as you mentioned, in the more suburban areas, that's a coverage service network, and it's a lot harder to serve with public transit. I think as our region starts to grow, and we see more infill development, that will be easier. But it's always a balance. And how do we put our resources in place where they're going to make the biggest impact and serve the most people?
And there's always that question of leading and getting the market to come to you, or following what you think people want. And I wonder how you do that, especially with a changing whole lifestyle that we're seeing with this pandemic. People are going to be working at home more. Maybe there's some families that are going to think, well, we can get rid of the second car or the third car.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Throughout this pandemic, we've seen a shift in travel patterns. As you mentioned, I'm teleworking from home today, and a lot of people have been. We think that some of our ridership may not actually ever come back to transit. And so as we've been developing this plan and thinking about what our services look like in the future, we're planning a much greater shift to more all-day service, earlier hours and later hours, to really serve essential workers and provide the most flexibility that we can with our service to meet anybody's needs. But yeah, it's a changing time, isn't it? We always, because we're a public agency, we have to be pretty careful with our resources, and so typically we do not lead out and say, "Oh, if you build it, they'll come." We build transit solutions around places that already have it.
Well, I'm going to break the rules here, because we're talking about 5 years, but you mentioned you also think further into the future. And I guess what I wonder is, I absolutely love being in a place, and I like the lifestyle of being able to be in a place where you walk out a door and you can hop on something and basically figure out how to get to where you're going. In some of the larger cities in the world, do you see as in decades to come that this metropolitan area, the broader Wasatch Front, is becoming that more?
Absolutely. We're an interesting region because we are bounded by mountains on two sides. In a lot of places, we have lakes. We have limited area that we can build, and our population is growing. They say something like we'll double by 2065, our region's population. We don't have capacity to build roads and single-family homes for all those people. And so necessarily, we're going to start getting denser and creating environments where people don't necessarily have to own a car in order to be able to get around. And so I think that's an exciting thing. And we'll continue to kind of watch travel patterns and development patterns and design our services in order to meet that need.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'll be a very old man in Salt Lake City in 2065, and And I can walk out and hop on tracks out my front door and go and just go places. I love that. Well, it's really, hey, thank you for coming on and talking with us. It's nice to talk to a person who's really in the center of things, so to speak. Laura.
Absolutely. Happy to join you.